to drop out of high school not only carries great cost to students but also affects society. How does their socioeconomic status, in other words, income or family environment matters? The primary obstacle to higher education for many students is a lack of financial resources. According to High School Dropouts in America website that was published in February 2009, a student coming from the highest of family income is 7 times more likely to complete high school than those who are coming from low-income families. Dropouts usually suffer from reduced earning and lost opportunities later over the course of their lifetime. A high school dropout earns about $260,000 less than a high school graduate. Social costs include lower tax revenues, greater public spending on public assistance and health care, and higher crime rates. Each year, about 1.2 million students fail to graduate high school, and more than half of them are from minority groups. When looking at the rates of 69% of African American dropouts and 63% of Hispanic dropouts compared to 30% of all white dropouts, if U.S. high schools raise the graduation rates of Hispanics, African Americans, and Native American students to levels of white students by 2020, the potential increase in personal income would add more than $310 billion to the U.S. economy. Also, increase the graduation rates of male students in the United States by just 5% could save about $8 billion each year by reducing crime-related costs. Dropouts pay about 42% of what high school graduates pay in federal and state income taxes each year. This is a yearly loss of $36 billion in federal and state income taxes.
We're going to look at how media plays an effect in the role of dropout rates. Television is overrun with sex and violence, and we want to look at how that affects education. About 40% of children have televisions in their house and in their rooms. Educational programs are also not being aired as much as these television shows like Nip Tuck and Sons of Anarchy. Educational shows like Bill Nye the Science Guy that teach you about science and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego and Sesame Street are mostly played on PBS. Video games also play a role in dropout rates. About over 75% of homes have a gaming console in them. And let's look at the fact that whether this is male and female, like the gender gap. About 62% of males have played video games compared to females. I mean, is there some correlation behind dropout rates in male and female? But that gap is narrowing quite a bit. But a lot of people say that playing video games teaches you things like strategy. Some games teach you words that you may never learn in school. But this also could be some bad things. Things that happen in games cannot simply just be reset in life. Other things that it teaches, it's a trial and error, but some things you can't just, keep going and mess up, and maybe that's a good reason of why dropout rates are high, is that it teaches you that trial and error, it's okay to mess up, and you can just always redo it. But the biggest part of video games is that it is very addicting to other students.
In a recent article from redherring.com, the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, blames video games and online gaming for increasing dropout rates. Taylor Tate, one of the 5 commissioners overseeing regulation of TV, radio, and all things related to media, said one of the top reasons for dropout rates in the U.S. is online gaming addiction, such as World of Warcraft, Medal of Honor, and Halo. These types of games are played by over 11 million individuals worldwide. The FCC states that the student dropout rate the U.S. is due to the fact that virtual reality games are inherently addictive, similar enough to the addiction to drugs and alcohol. Our society is quick to blame video games for a lot of social problems today, but they're not the only possible cause for dropout rates. We check our Facebook and MySpace pages hourly. Imagine how much time all that is taken away from studying and schoolwork. Some signs of video game addiction in young adults is most non-school hours are spent on the computer playing video games, fatigue and tendency to fall asleep in school, not keeping up with homework assignments and not turning homework in on time, worsening grades, choosing the computer or playing video games rather than spending time with family or friends, dropping out of activities such as social groups and sports, irritable and cranky or agitated when not playing a video game on the computer. If we are aware of these problems in society and the harm they may cause, then we will be able to correct these dropout rates in the future.
The No Child Left Behind Act was passed in 2002 by President George W. Bush. Its goal is to raise academic achievement by setting annual test score targets for subgroups of students based on a goal of 100% proficiency by 2014. The Act focuses only primarily on math and reading scores. According to the director of the Center of Education at Rice University, Linda McSpadden, high-stakes test-based accountability does not lead to school improvement or equitable educational possibilities. It only leads to avoidable losses of students. The system creates a dilemma for principals, either to comply with the Act or to educate the way they think they should. Unfortunately, compliance has led to big losses of students. As schools come under the accountability program, which use student test scores to rate schools and reward or discipline the principals, massive numbers of students left the school system. The exit of low-achieving students only creates the appearance that the test scores are rising from the No Child Left Behind Act. The system allows principals to hold back students who are deemed at risk of reducing the school's scores. Many students retained this way end up dropping out. The system singles out low-scoring students as liabilities to the school's ratings. This increases incentives for principals and administrators to allow those students to quietly exit the school system.
Studies show that students are more likely to do worse in school due to circumstances in their lives and parental involvement. Students come into school with family issues, and their teachers don't know how to deal with them. Some factors that may place a child at risk for academic failure are very young, single, or low educational level parents, unemployment, abuse and neglect, substance abuse, dangerous neighborhoods, homelessness, mobility, and exposure to insufficient or inappropriate educational experiences. One way to solve some of these problems, is to make their student feel important, or to make a good relationship between the student and teacher. If the student feels very little comfort or support from their family, it can cause them to fail, or even want to drop out. The lack of emotional nurturing can lead to feelings of alienation, inadequacy, depression, and anxiety. Abuse can be a problem in a family, which can then cause problems amongst students in a school. If a student is taught that reading, studying, and applying your abilities in school are not worthwhile lessons, that will wear off on them. This is comparable with how children act. If a child is taught to be hostile towards a person, they are more likely to be that way with others. The same is with their schoolwork. Children who experience hostility, abuse, physical discipline, and other aggressive behaviors by their parents are more likely to model that behavior in their peer relationships. A good way to help with parent involvement is for teachers to keep parents informed of what is going on in the classroom and encourage parents to talk to their children about school.